Where has all my space weather gone? The CME was moving more slowly than most of us had ever imagined. Anyway, we've got some space weather actually showing up here just in the past hour or so. We'll tell you all about it here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. First, some 24-hour videos of the closest star. We've got some massive plasma filaments, a near 100% chance of coronal mass ejections for the next 24 hours. A sector boundary crossing on the way. Here's a close-up of that filament. You could call it a crown prominence by now. And, of course, we've got some other fresh looks at El Sol, a.k.a. Helios. Here's the equatorial view. Note all of those dark features, those dark rope-like snaky features there. Those are plasma filaments. Again, there are no less than about a dozen of them on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. You may also see a new sunspot forming there in the southern hemisphere, right in the center of heliographic longitudes, right in the Earth-facing zone as it forms. Most likely place to see a large flare is around the western limb. Here's a great prominence rising in the northeastern limb. We showed it yesterday. Here it's coming back for another view, yet to collapse. Still suspended by magnetic fields. How about an even closer view? Just to give you some perspective. Again, the most likely place to see a large solar flare remains on the western limb, as we've got a number of large sunspot groups setting. Huge filaments over there as well, now becoming prominences. And more filaments and prominences in the southern hemisphere. Again, new sunspot just formed, right in the center of the solar disk, just south of the equator. So that's a short synopsis of what's going on, and space weather is finally arriving. And to help keep space weather in existence, why not help support the channel? One of the ways to do it would be via our Hemp Lucid affiliate. These are paid endorsements from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Save 10% by entering the promo code SMASHOMASH10 on your Hemp Lucid order. You can find a link below the video to our Hemp Lucid shop. Save big via our link on stress, sleep, and immune stacks. Also, by the way, the CBD lip balms are now back in stock, full spectrum peppermint. Available for your gifting pleasure. Also, CBDs for your pets there in chicken flavor. Again, enter the promo code SMASHOMASH10 to save 10% on your Hemp Lucid purchases. So that's one paid affiliate. And you can find links, again, below the video, as well as on the homepage at SmashoMash.com. There's the homepage. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. SmashoMash.com, launched back in February of 2019 in response to pathetic censorship on social media. We saw the writing on the wall, realized we needed our own web ring, so we launched it to benefit people like you. SmashoMash.com. Today's featured product is, for the most imbecile that you know, perhaps the acrylic block. Yeah, the imbecile acrylic block, folks. What more could you want? A 6x6 or a 4x4, 1-inch thick acrylic block with the high resolution. Don't be an imbecile. Don't be an imbecile. It's an adjective, too. You can also get in a whole bunch of other types of products. Magnets and greeting cards and throw blankets, oh my. What about a don't be an imbecile comforter? Yeah, we've got that covered. Makes a great t-shirt. Imbecile. It's an adjective too. perhaps a word that is a little bit too old-timey. I think maybe we ought to bring that one back. Don't phase out imbecile. Only an imbecile would phase out the word imbecile. It's underused. Today's featured product is from the Amazon shop, another paid affiliate / endorsement. Today's featured product from there is the very shoes that I'm wearing. Now, mine are in chrome. However, here's the black version. The LED basketball shoes. Highly recommended. Yes, color-changing LEDs. You gotta love it. There's the chrome color. Yeah, that's what they look like. 11 different settings on the LEDs, by the way. See the Instagram page for more details on those. Only $40 to $44 there. They come in chrome, pink chrome, anodized gold, white plain leather, anodized blue, black, flat, and chrome. Yes, chrome. Enhance your spacewear with Amazon.com/shop/SmashOmash. And of course, become a member of the Smash team. Support the channel via subscription services. We launched our own subscription services site in October of 2021. Members of the Smash team get email alerts. Gold Smash team members get additional content. So do silver and even bronze, actually, get some additional content. SmashOmash.com/Smash team. Help the channel out. Visit the links, even if you're unable or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet. Send us a few bucks per month. Or click our links. Visit us on social media. Press share, comment, etc. Let's get back to space. And now, last night we talked about the incoming solar storm, and it was a little bit overhyped, but guess what? Now there's some CME activity happening. So we may see us jump back into geomagnetic storm conditions tonight. A little bit unexpected. I guess those were moving a little more slowly than anybody forecasted, but hey, now we got some space weather showing up. We'll tell you about it here in a moment. And last night we went over ways to see the aurora, instruments to use from the Space Weather Prediction Center and elsewhere to figure out if the aurora are likely to be seen in your location. One of those would be the Ground Magnetic Perturbations Map. And you will see this lighting up a little bit right at the end of this video here because we are seeing a little bit of a space weather impact. So there you go. There's the last 2 hours. We are seeing a shift in the magnetic fields, an increase in the solar wind density. So CME impact happening a little bit late. So the likelihood of seeing aurora tonight is back. Another great way to see the aurora is to use the geoelectric field map. So that's a great map as well. That map shows you induction into the power grid, and it's in near real time, so that's a good way to see the aurora. If you're a North American viewer, at least. The geoelectric field map available at the Space Weather Prediction Center, swpc.noaa.gov. And you can also use the Aurora 30-minute forecast. Not super renowned for being super accurate, but there are a couple that I didn't even bring up last night, so let's bring those up tonight. And by the way, like I said, you see the likelihood of aurora here increasing as a little bit of an uptick in space weather has been going on the past few hours. So here you should see a little bit of an uptick in the likelihood of the aurora right here at the end. And geez, it's barely modeled yet. So anyway, other ways to see the likelihood of space weather happening is the Boulder magnetometer. That's in a pretty high temporal resolution there. That's only showing several hours. "12 hours, indeed. So there you can see an uptick in the, what is that? That's the H component there. And you can also use the Karuna and Tormestorp magnetometers. So those are other ways to see what's going on with Earth's magnetic fields. So other ground-based magnetometers may help you figure out in real time if the aurora are likely. So like I said, there's a little uptick here in space weather going on. Let's take a look at, yes, We'll take a look at sunspots here briefly and magnetic fields. So there's the SDO continuum for November 11th and 12th to date. New sunspot forming there in the southern hemisphere. A little bit of growth on the southwest as well. So again, likelihood of large solar flares here going up, especially in the southwest. There's magnetogram, and there are at least 2 active regions also rising on the east. No sunspots were there when we did show prep. Let's briefly take a look at volcanoes as Iceland gets evacuated. By the way, it's the calm before the storm, I think, going on in Iceland. We've been seeing actually a dip in earthquakes there, so it's been quiet. Is it because it's about to blow up? I suspect it might be. Anyway, the only volcanoes listed on Volcano Discovery today's Volcanoes Today list is Kluchevskoy, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume as it explodes, and Sangay in Ecuador, producing a 19,000-foot ash plume, flight level 190. So I don't know if the editor of volcanodiscovery.com is out pole vaulting calderae or what the deal is, but it's only showing 2 volcanoes. Again, Iceland is about to be in the news as a massive volcanic eruption is about to happen there, I suspect. Next, earthquakes. And again, check it out. There are the past 90 days, and look at Iceland. No earthquakes showing up there at all. Interesting. These are the quakes of the past 24 of a 5 or greater magnitude, starting with a 5.2 at East Timor. That's just regular Timor. That's not East Timor. At 2:06 this morning was the first 5.0 or greater quake at a 5.2, then a 5.9 at Papua New Guinea at 4:51. Then looks like an aftershock there, a 5.2 at 5:54, and then about 20 minutes later another 5.2. Then another 5.2. Remember, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. Tonga had a 5.1 and a series of smaller quakes as well. And Indonesia had a 5.3 at 20:38 tonight. And those are the quakes of a 5 or greater magnitude. Notice nothing showing up at Iceland on the entire list. Next, how about a full disk view? So here are the last 24 hours in the wavelengths on which we started. The 193 plus 304 classic wavelengths that's showing plasma filaments. And again, there are no less than a dozen large ones, several of which are worthy of names, I would say. Hashtag name that filament. And here's an equatorial zoom at 171 angstroms. Again, you might note 2 active regions rising there on the east. New sunspot forming in the south-central portion of the closest star. And several active regions setting in the west, creating a high likelihood of large solar flares right over here. Anyway, getting to some stats here, the 10.7, otherwise known as the F107, is at 137 solar flux units. Here's the radio flux. It's the black line for the past year. The red line is the sunspot number for the past year, which is actually around 90. And Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here is forecasting some geomagnetic storm conditions. So again, we might be going into geomagnetic storm conditions. The aurora might be showing up tonight at mid-latitudes, folks. It's just a fact. So by the way, if you haven't pressed the like button, please do, or else. Yes, help us get these videos onto screens by pressing like. If you're new to the channel, do yourself a favor and press subscribe and get the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content delivered to your YouTube subscription feed. If you don't trust it, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/SmashTeam and get email alerts about videos just like this one, as many people have stated that they are not getting the videos showing up in their subscriptions. So use the workarounds. Again, we've created a massive web ring to benefit people just like you. We've also got the world's most comprehensive, detailed imagery of the closest star. Thanks for stargazing with us. Don't forget to press the like button. You won't find a channel able to compete. Continuing on, here are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. So a little bit of an uptick here in the past couple of hours. We should see a little uptick here. These are 4 hours. About 12 Earth diameters there of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And there's that little uptick happening, a little uptick in the past hour or two. Here's a ground magnetic perturbations map. The flat Earth view. Yeah, the flat Earth view. The last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Magnetic flux density measured in nanotesla. Changes to Earth's B field, known as geospace delta B. So some aurora likely popping up tonight as the uptick happens as we create the video. KP index currently at 1.33. It might be coming up to 4 plus. Don't be surprised to see geomagnetic unrest or geomagnetic storm conditions. We're expecting a mild one, if any, tonight. KP 1.33 is the current situation, and here is the uptick measured at Lagrangian point 1 by the ACE spacecraft. So there you can see that little uptick in the solar wind density there at ACE, although the data is a little old. Here is Discover, a little bit more up-to-date data there, and you see the BZ going negative. So BZ of a BT of 8 right now with a BZ of negative 8. So that's a good thing for the likelihood of seeing aurora happen. Solar wind density here, 24.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, 467 kilometers a second. So if we see this continued negative BZ here, we will see geomagnetic storm conditions likely, with that accompanying increase in solar wind density. Yes, space weather, it's showing up after all. Ghost magnetometers here getting a little spiky. Not too surprising there either. Here was the earlier impact. And man, oh man, it was weak. This one already looking like it is more significant. So either a second CME here, we did forecast 2, probably a second one, or maybe just the first one was moving slowly. Maybe it's 2 arriving at once, but in any case, an uptick in space weather. And let's move on to the top view ecliptic plane field plot, because there is a sector boundary crossing. So that's still probably not going to show up until after tomorrow night's daily space weather video, but the magnetic environment can suddenly change. So if you look at the last image here, there is a sector boundary crossing out there. Right there it is. Right there. Still might be more than 24 hours away from us. So that's the current situation for our heliospheric magnetism. Here's our line of sight field plot. And still some magnetic indecision happening around the east. It looks like it's a little more stable than it was yesterday, at least around the limb region. Here's our line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. And you can see that magnetic indecision happening over there, a flashing back and forth between red and green. That is south and north pole magnetism, respectively. Which brings us to coronal holes. Super important as they show us the magnetic field reversal process of a solar cycle. We've got south pole oriented coronal holes in the north and north pole oriented coronal holes in the south. And expect the uptick in coronal hole activity to continue for over the next year plus. So there's a latest image in our line of sight coronal hole plot. Here are coronal holes from SDO. That's 211 angstroms. And basically what we've got is, these are south. These are north, these are south, and these are south. And there's a little closer view in that same wavelength. Great at showing the extended corona, solar filaments, active regions, and coronal holes. 211 angstroms from Solar Dynamics Observatory. And how about sunspots? So sunspot number is about 90 right now. And here is the Royal Observatory of Belgium. Again, about 90 sunspots. Maybe 89, 90, something like that. Here's our flare scoreboard and probability monitor. And again, the most likely place for large solar flares, despite this new sunspot, is over here in this D-shaped region. That is definitely the place to watch. Multiple magnetically complex sunspot groups setting over there on the western limb. Here are sunspots from SDO. There's 171 plus SDO continuum. You'll see the formation of that new sunspot in epic detail. From here, pay attention to the rest of it because we're going to zoom way in on that new sunspot just as it approaches center disk. There's an epic close-up of that new sunspot group. You'll see some umbral consolidation in the leading south pole magnetic field areas. More stability in the trailing north pole magnetic field areas. And next, let's talk some more energetic stuff. Tell me I didn't just not show that. Let's go back. There's continuum plus 171. There's continuum by itself. And there's an extreme close-up of the newest sunspot. No SEPs, although the likelihood of SEPs remains quite high, as we have a high likelihood of solar flares, and we have space weather arriving. So don't be surprised to see a spike in the proton flux, especially if we see a large flare. No major flares over the past 24, although the background flux for the past 24 hours has been about a C1. So about a C1 background flux. And here come solar flares from the SDO. First 94 angstroms. We also enjoy the 131 angstroms. And if we had a major flare, we'd show you it in close detail. We just haven't had a major flare. And let's move on to what's going on overhead. We think it counts as space weather. Some astrologers would agree. Some astronomers might disagree, but that is a star chart. And you might do yourself some good going out and looking in this direction toward Polaris tonight. Did you know the two stars at the end of the Big Dipper point toward Polaris? Yeah, if you could find the Big Dipper, you can find Polaris. A lot of people will be out looking north tonight if they've seen our video. We hope they have, as the aurora might find themselves visible once again at mid-latitudes. Anyway, here's a solar system forecast. This is what's going on today. Ta-da! And wham! That's where things will be in a week. We will still have a crescent waxing moon by the 19th. New moon coming tomorrow morning. Tomorrow late night into tomorrow morning. You get the idea. New moon coming. Today's astronomy photo of the day is a plane creating a chemtrail. Look at that chemtrail. Oh my God, when will they stop spraying, folks? Just kidding. Chemtrails aren't a thing. Yeah, they're not a thing. So, but a great image of the moon there. That's taken in Sweden, by the way. And it's called a gibbous moon. It's gibbous when it's more than half illuminated, when the visible portion of the moon is more than half illuminated. Gibbous moon there behind Swedish mountain. And let's get to CMEs. This section brought to you by the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News, and George Mason University. So there are 102 frames of CMEs from yesterday, 11/11. And we do have a comet showing up there. So right down here, there it is. You can barely see it. It shows up on the difference imagery right in this area. There it goes. Little sun diving comet there. And here are today's frames. There were at least 1 or 2 CMEs today. Likelihood of CMEs moving forward, the forecast is nearly 100%. More CMEs coming. And here we've put together C2 and C3. We'll briefly let that play through, and then we'll zoom in as Mercury moves into the C2. Here's a little closer view for you. CME out of the northwest around noontime today. It is not earthly directed. And here's a second one later in the day, right out of the west. I don't think that one is earthly directed either. We'll show you more. We'll do the analysis right here on this video. We'll also show stereo A located right over here, just in front of the Earth orbitally speaking. It's really ahead of Earth. It's ahead of Earth in its orbit, speeding farther and farther away and giving us better and better trajectory of coronal mass ejections. Raw coronagraph on the left, difference imagery on the right. So here comes today's first CME. Again, it pops off around noontime, becoming visible on the coronagraph, and there it is. And the second one not showing up on the coronagraph. Stereo A has some outdated data there. Let's get to our own custom coronagraphs. Here's a 24-hour video. You've got SDO 193 in the middle. You've got Soho Lasco C2 in red, and you've got Soho Lasco C3 in blue, all synced up. All synced up, folks. Here's a little closer view. Again, that is Mercury having left its retrograde motion. Let's get a little closer. Here we've added 304 angstroms. And it is possible that second CME there has an earthly directed component. So fingers crossed on that one. It looks like the event actually came from right in the center of the solar disk. So I suspect that is another Earth-directed CME. Expect another CME impact sometime late day on the 15th. Late day on the 15th, another CME on the way. So it came from right in this area here, right around where this new sunspot formed. Certainly looks like that late day CME, the one that happened around, the one that started to emerge from the coronagraph around 1800 Universal Time. Right in there. I think there is another CME with Earth-directed components, folks. So good times, good stuff. More space weather on the way as space weather arrives. So the major impact turned out to be minor, and it's exciting stuff. And let's see what's going on as far as filaments. So here's the filament situation. Here's the Big Bear Observatory, and look at all those dark absorption features. At least half a dozen of those are worthy of names. Should I keep naming them after big tech oligarchs? I don't know. You could name them after your friends, your foes, or even yourself if you follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament over on Twitter. There's the other hydrogen alpha imagery from Big Bear. Some large prominences on both the eastern and western limbs, as well as a crown prominence or two at both poles. Next, if you haven't followed us on Twitter, what are you waiting for? If you have an account, if you do social media, x.com/smashomash. We do lots of sharing of auroral imagery and all kinds of other stuff over there on Twitter, so I don't know, if you do social media, that's where to follow us. Press the share button, share to X. Why doesn't Elon watch the videos? What is he, nuts? Anyway, the last few hours here of ionized helium from the GOES 16 SUVI. Keep your eye on this area for large solar flares. Next, we'll blast through bonus features. Starting out with satellite charging hazards. Do we have any? No, it's smooth sailing for satellites at the moment. There you go. Satellite charging hazards are non-existent. GOES electron flux saw a little dip here, but since the CME impact was so weak it never really got erroneous. We never really saw a geomagnetic storm. We might be seeing one happen now. Maybe the electron flux is going to suddenly plummet. Don't be surprised to see that happen. Here's the 1-year electron flux graph from Solon.info. There's the forecast model, NOAA expecting a further uptick. So anyway, CME impact happening now. I'm expecting a downtick once again. We'll have to see what happens. Let's look at the layer where it's measured. It's the F layer of the ionosphere. Feel free to pause the video in this frame if you're not familiar with temperature variation in atmospheric layers, electromagnetic radiation penetration to atmospheric layers, or perhaps chemical concentrations. Here's the F layer, courtesy Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Not to be confused with the bureau containing your drawers. The set of drawers containing your drawers. So there's the ionosphere. Here's the anomalygram. And not a lot of red showing up because not a lot of solar protons showing up until just the past hour or so. So pretty smooth sailing out there. It might be getting a little bit bumpier for satellites in the coming hours. Here's the latest image, 2315 Universal Time Ionogram. There's the anomalygram. We'll also show the WAM, the whole atmosphere model. Total electron content and anomaly on the left, maximum usable frequency and anomaly on the right. We'll also show total electron content by itself. There it is. These are the most likely places to see errors on your GPS. We'll also show, as we zoom in closer and closer to the US, the anomaly in electron content from the 10-day average for North America. And things are pretty normal there. No major anomalies. We'll let it play through a second time. We'll close out space weather before going to meteorology with the latest high-res images from the SDO. So there you go. Here are these new active regions. There were not sunspots when we did show prep. Maybe there are now, but it doesn't look like it. I missed my frame. There we are. And I don't see any dark ombre over there. So no new sunspots yet from those new active regions. And it's time for meteorology. We're going to start out with sea surface temperature anomalies and surface winds. So those are super important factors to Earth's weather. The temperature of the surface of the ocean and the surface winds. So there's the North Atlantic. That's a very important part of the planet for a lot of people's weather. Some anomalously cold water up there in the North Atlantic. Dag, that's way cold. 14.5 degrees below normal for this time of year. However, there's also a bunch of warm water up there. Look at the warm water off Maryland's coast. 12 degrees above normal. Also wild variations around Greenland's east coast. Anyway, here's the whole planet view. There is the sea surface temperature and surface winds for the entire Atlantic, Southern Ocean, Indian Ocean, the Arctic, and let's don't forget the Pacific. Who could forget the Pacific? That is a large body of water indeed. Wham! All right, so here are the regular meteorology things. Surface winds are first. Shout out to our viewers from the east. Jet streams are next. Shout out to our viewers from the central world. Here are your surface winds. Surface winds of the west. Shout out to our viewers from the west. And there are your jet streams. Here are clouds and fog. Over that same portion of the planet, rapid cloud nucleation once again over Brazil. And here's a little close-up of the Mid-Atlantic and Great Lakes regions of the U.S. So that's clouds and fog. It's clouding up once again over Pennsylvania. So it looks like another bad night to view the aurora from Lehigh Valley. If you get images of it, hit us up on especially Twitter. Also, you could use Instagram or the Smash a Mash Discord chat, or there are many ways to get a hold of us. Did you know that droughts continue over western North Carolina? It's the drought map from Check Globe. Yeah, Check Globe. Good times. There are the world's droughts. How about them apples? And next, our weather.gov map. So weather.gov is the homepage of the National Weather Service. If your location is lit up, click your location. Man, Alaska is lit up. Click your location at weather.gov and get your own weather alerts. There are too many areas for us to cover. However, we can show some forecasts. So here's the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation. Again, the Gulf Coast is going to get buffeted with some high winds and heavy weather. You may see damaging wind and hail, things like water spouts likely to form around the Gulf of Mexico. Also, a wave of heavy moisture making its way into the Pacific Northwest as an atmospheric creek, or maybe it's an atmospheric tributary. I think it's just this side of an atmospheric river. We'll also show total accumulated precipitation, since there's going to be some heavy rains in Louisiana and Mississippi especially, also stretching into Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, parts of Texas as well, parts and ports of Texas. Here is accumulated positive snow depth change. Washington is going to get some big snow. Also, New England going to get a coating to an inch or two. Montana and Idaho, Oregon and California also getting a little bit. Next are wind and pressure. That's the surface wind and 10 meter surface wind and mean sea level pressure map. Same model, GFS 72 hour. Again, you see those high winds around the Gulf Coast. We've been talking about it for days. It's coming. It's almost here. And let's get to lightning. There you go. There's lightning. Plenty of lightning over South America and Central America. Here's a real-time map. Lightningmaps.org. If you've never seen it, next time you hear thunder, check it out. Convince the natives that you're Thor or something. Maybe Zeus. I don't know. We do have some lightning in the Gulf on a global scale. Pretty low levels of lightning here. Only 60 strikes per minute. That's quite calm. On the lightning front, we'll close out with Doppler radar for the lower 58, for the lower 48. There are the 52 states of America. ALSA, the allegedly United States of America. Here is the clouds and fog data. Here are the data. And here are water vapor data. So you can see that atmospheric tributary there making landfall around the Pacific Northwest. A band of dry air constraining moisture into Texas. Last but not least, this is your recap. As we've shown you the weather all the way from the closest star down to the lower 48. That was Doppler. That is clouds and fog, infrared radiation, 3.9 micrometers. And that is 6.19 micrometers infrared radiation showing the water vapor. And this is me signing off, getting to this video onto your screens. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back.